everybody. I'm Karla. I'm an addict.
Hey, Karla.
Um, Sorry for that technical. It's been a long time since I did Zoom. Um, First thing I want to say is that I'm super grateful to Jody G, who asked me to speak, who gave me the opportunity to share some experience, strength, and hope. Um, Other thing I wanted to say is that my phone is kind of blowing up, and I have an extra kid here, so if I get distracted, I really apologize. In Iowa, it did snow, so there's that. Pretty excited about that, seeing you guys with all your sun and whatnot in the background. Um, so, anyways, I have been praying all morning, and I just want to take a second and kind of invite my higher power into my space. Okay. So, like I said, I'm an addict. I come from a long line of addicts and people who live in the chaos that comes with drug addiction and whatnot. Um, my childhood was like full of abuse and chaos, and I don't know if you guys. I'm sure you guys can probably recognize what that might have looked like for a child. Um, Anyway, so growing up, I hated that lifestyle. I hated the fact that I came from people who didn't know how to like go to work and keep a home. I hated the fact that like I didn't fit in with those people because I didn't like my life. I always felt not unique by any means, but just not. I just didn't feel like I belonged anywhere. And so, anyways, growing up, I continued to feel that way and feel like I wasn't loved and like I didn't deserve to be loved. And so I carried that with me for a really long time. The truth about, for me, the truth about my addiction is that I needed the drugs to feel like I was worthy. I needed them to not worry about what other people thought about me. I really hated the person that I was, even as a young child, before I'd really taken any shitty actions. You know what I mean? Like I always felt like I needed something to feel good about me. And it started out with a food addiction when I was really young. It kept going to like attention and eventually just kind of like any kind of substance I could put into my body became really important to me. I do not discriminate against drugs. I tried them all as frequently as I could, and used with my parents and sold drugs with my parents and my grandparents and, people like that. And that was just my life. As I grew up and became a teenager and a young adult, I started having pretty bad consequences for my actions. Started putting myself in really unsafe situations where things happened to me that were out of my control. And I just thought that I deserved them because I was unlovable. And I was high, right? I was high, so it's okay. It's okay that it happened because I put myself in unsafe situations and all that shit. So anyways, like I said, I started having pretty severe consequences at a pretty young age. And for me, so that was kind of what it was like. I'm not going to go deep into my youth history because really it's not important. I just know that, using for me was both joy and pain, lots of joy and lots of pain until it stopped working. And so for me, what had happened was I had children. And I couldn't stop using. And because I couldn't stop using, I couldn't not sell drugs. You know what I mean? I mean, like, duh, like if I'm going to feed this addiction, I'm going to have to feed it with something. And I certainly can't get a job because there's no way I'm going to give a negative drug screen. Like that's not possible for me. And God forbid I stop using. Like that, the thought never really crossed my mind. I mean, I'm sure it did, but like please, that's just not going to work for me. Or at least it wasn't, I mean. um, so, like I said, I had a child, and kept dealing. And so I had some criminal consequences for that, and ended up getting to go to a treatment center. And for me, the great thing about that treatment center was being heard for the first time and being believed regarding my trauma, but also being introduced to the fact that there were other people in rooms in the basement of churches and that and other facilities or whatever that were just like me. You know what I mean? Like people who didn't like the way they lived, but had no other way out other than a group of people just like them. And for me, the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous were home. I felt safe. I felt secure. I wasn't bullied. I didn't suffer at the hands of, older men or women who were trying to take advantage of me. I was home, and I remember just feeling like a big release of fear, a big release of like emotional distress that I'd been living with for so long. And I just remember being like grateful and scared to death at the same time. And anyway, so, I did a lot of work in treatment, and of course I graduated and continuing to build those relationships. I continued to build those relationships in the recovery community. But to be honest with you, that first time through treatment in the program, I feel like looking back now, I was able to stay clean on ego, right? Like, I'm not going to fuck up my life like everybody else did. Excuse my cursing. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I curse like a lot. So anyways, I knew like people that I had always been around, my family members, nobody trusted that I was going to stay clean, because, why would they? Like, I'd never given them any indication that I was going to, So like I said, I stayed clean purely on ego. Another thing that I learned around, was that people who come from where I come from, they don't stop using. You know what I mean? Like they die from the horrors of addiction, and their children grow up in the same way, and their children end up being just like them, and all that stuff. And that was another thing I wasn't gonna let happen to me. I wasn't gonna let that shit happen to my children. And because I had so much ego, and I had been edging my higher power out of my life slowly but surely, and because, I quit coming to meetings, and I felt like I belonged in those trap houses. I felt like I belonged, at my mom's house, at my mom's house getting high, rather than, in a meeting where people were talking about being loved and supported, and all these things that I still knew I didn't deserve, And so anyways, I went back out. I don't know if you guys picked up on that idea, but that's what happened, right? And I was miserable, man. All those things that people say, like, we'll refund your misery at the door if you don't like, recovery, and you got to go to meetings or you're gonna get high, and all that shit. Like, that became true for me, and of course that really upset me because of how big my ego and my inferiority complex is. But anyway, yeah. So I went back out, and I always start with this one drug. This one socially acceptable, available on every corner, at every fucking gas station drug. And, how I know that I'm absolutely powerless over my disease is because I can never stop at one drug or one drink. I am that person that every single time a substance touches my lips, I can't stop. And it's the same with cake. You know what I mean? Like, it's the same with sugar. Like, that's just who I am, man. I can't even smoke cigarettes or use nicotine like a normal fucking person. I don't know what, I mean, I do know I have this disease and it's really bad. It's really bad in my brain, you know? Um, but anyway, so, you know, obviously my use continued and it got worse. And before you know it, I'm using, you know, my drug of choice and then everybody else's drug of choice. And then, you know, I'm back to that space where I'm making my life miserable and my children are fucking missing out on their mom and I'm forgetting them at the bus stop and I'm, you know, they're making their own breakfast and lunch and dinner and I'm hiding out in the bedroom and you know, and I can't stop using long enough to really make any kind of sense of my life, you know. I lied to of course we had like the school social worker and DHS knocking at our door and, you know, I don't know what they call it there, but it's Department of Human Services here in Iowa. But, you know, and, you know, and I wasn't going to stop. Like, those people don't know me. They don't know that I'm capable of being a good mom, even though I'm wrecked. They don't know that, you know, my children are doing just fine and I clothe them and I make sure they have food in the house that they cook by themselves at, you know, 5 and 3, or I think it was actually like, I think they were 7 and 5. But either way, they're fucking young ass kids and they're taking care of their emotional, physical, social, spiritual needs because I was empty. And I just didn't, you know. I mean, I suppose I could have if I'd have been clean, but you guys know what I mean, I think. So anyways, you know, thank God I got pregnant again and I couldn't stop using. And I don't say that, thank God I'm grateful that I harmed my child by any means. That's not fucking okay. But I did it. And it was the second time I'd been in that same situation, right? Like I was using, I couldn't stop using no matter how bad I wanted to and how depressed and shamed I felt, and how much I hated myself for the harm I was causing this tiny innocent person. But like I said, I just couldn't stop, you know? Anyway, thank God for the Department of Human Services and the criminal justice system, because, you know, I had a domestic violence situation at my home and there was lots and lots of drugs in my significant other's pockets. And, you know, he got arrested and the cops searched my purse and my home and found, you know, just a ridiculous amount of crap, you know what I mean? And thank God for that person. Like, he took all my charges, and they called DHS on me, you know? And I was given the opportunity to save my children's lives and to change mine. I say opportunity because there's some people out there who don't get that opportunity, you know? There are children out there that you lose their parents and end up in the foster care system. And I'm not judging anybody, like, by any means. Shit happens. And this disease of addiction is fucking cunning and fucking miserable and, you know, incurable. And it just gets so bad, you know, progressive. And anyway, so I was given the opportunity to, you know, try to get clean at home. And I remembered that meetings had worked for me. I wasn't as miserable when I was trying to go to meetings and not using as I was sitting there in my fucking house without my children, without my man, no money, no drugs, nobody to give me drugs because I was pregnant. You know what I mean? Like, I just had like this emptiness inside me, you know? And not only because I wasn't high, but because, you know, my tiny humans were taken from me. And, you know, I had been fucking up their lives enough to where I knew that that was a good thing. So anyways, you know, eventually I ended up having to move into a treatment center, a long-term like place where my children can come live with me, because I'm not that kind of addict that can like get clean and stay clean on the streets. Like, I'm not. I know there are people out there that can do that, and kudos to them, and they're fucking amazing. I'm not. I'm just not. Plus, also, I didn't have any money, and I couldn't stop selling drugs because, you know, God forbid you get a job and, you know, do like what normal people do. That's just not in the cards for me, you know, at that point. So anyways, I'm at this place, and once again, by the time I moved in there, I had already had a sponsor because I knew I couldn't stop using. I'd already had a seat in recovery rooms because I knew I couldn't stop using, and I knew that I'd seen other people live this life of recovery, and not be miserable, and not hate themselves as much as I did. So anyway, so I was able to have that opportunity because it had worked for me in the past, and I'd seen the hope in others, and you know, quite frankly, that's what brings me back to the meetings, is that hope that I saw in others. So anyway, that's kind of what happened, how I found the rooms again. And for me, like I said, NA become my home. I don't have family that's clean. I have some people some of them have changed quite a bit about their lives, right? Like we don't sell drugs as a family together, which is cool. You know, we don't sit around at the Christmas table and get high, or none of that. Like, we're not hiding out from the children in our bedrooms, doing any of that kind of shit. And that's cool, right? That's super cool. Like, I'm so grateful that my family was willing and able to do that with me. Even though they don't live a lifestyle of recovery, I'm just grateful to have them, period. Anyways, so, you know, I found a sponsor that I connected with more, and continue to go to meetings. And what I can share with you is that here I did end up having to, not having to, but you know, because the treatment center I was at transported to other fellowships, I ended up dipping into whatever I could find, man. And I know that this is an NA meeting and that we're sharing NA stuff, but the truth is, for me, is here in Iowa, we have like 2 NA meetings a day, some of the times, obviously not during COVID, not during this pandemic crap. But anyway, so I was hitting 3 and 4 meetings a day at some points. Like Friday and Saturday, those were my hard days, because, you know, Fridays I would get loaded, and Saturdays and Sundays I sold drugs all weekend. So I didn't know what to do with myself when I was clean, man. And so I ran to meetings. And they saved my life, man. And they saved my children's life. That my kids are in recovery too, you know, and they're bigger kids, and they know that this opportunity is there for them. So anyways, you know, I stuck and I stayed, and I had a sponsor go out, and that was okay. You know, I started going to school and kind of trying to live this program to the best of my ability, while still being really afraid of the fact that people would find out how big of a piece of shit I was, or really afraid that, you know, the truth is like that I don't deserve to have a higher power, and I don't deserve to be clean. Those are the things that I knew about myself still, you know. So anyways, I continued to stay in meetings, and found another sponsor and got to work some steps. And at first, when I got that sponsor, I was like, oh no, I've worked the steps. Like, I don't think we need to do all that. Things will be fine, you know, that kind of shit. And eventually, the person that I had gotten back with ended up using, and so did I, you know, because I thought that I needed to be with him, and nobody would love me like that, you know. Nobody would. I didn't deserve it, so nobody would, you know. Anyway, so I used again, and of course
it was like, oh, we're working some steps again, you know. You're gonna get busy, or you're probably gonna get high and stay high. And
I got loaded, but I didn't leave my home group. I came back and I admitted that I got high, and that I wanted to get high because I wanted this relationship to work, and that I wanted to get high because, you know, I didn't see any other way. And I don't know, the truth is that was my disease, right? It was telling me that I only deserved to get loaded, and that was the lifestyle I should be living, you know, because it was so good to get up and go to work in the morning, and it was so great and calm and peaceful, and I just wasn't used to that. You know, I just wasn't. So anyways, I of course, getting high proved to me yet again that I'm powerless. And that, you know, the only person who can help me, or the only thing that can help me stay sane, is my higher power. And the truth is, for me, is yes, that is absolutely true, right? Like the second step is absolutely true. However, not only do I need my higher power, I need therapy, I need psychiatric help, I need um, meetings, lots of meetings. I need other addicts, especially women, because I'm a woman, right? I need other addicts to show me how to live and to give me advice on how they made it through some shit that I don't think I can make it through because, oh, woe is me. And I need steps, man. I need the steps and the traditions of this program because if I don't work those steps and traditions and change my heart um, and move the stuff that I know from my head to my heart, I'm not going to be able to stay clean. And I knew that. And anyway, so I get busy with the steps again. And I really had a lot of spiritual awakenings. And that sponsor, man, so she lived a different life than I did. She doesn't have kids. And she'd never had some of the shitty experiences I did with, you know, using while pregnant and some of those terribly shameful events that I lived through and put my children through. So, you know, she had a lot of like, well, I don't think you should live like that. Or maybe you should try this. Have you used this word instead of that word? And I mean, God, she used to piss me off, you know? And she didn't force me to change. She allowed me, she gave me the opportunity to have a new thought process about a lot of stuff because she had worked the steps and she'd been clean like way longer than me, you know? And she had gotten honest with herself and with people in the program. So I listened, you know what I mean? I listened and I practiced new shit and I didn't give up. I didn't give up. I knew that my life wasn't done at that point, and I knew that I could live through the loss of this relationship, and that I was loved in the Narcotics Anonymous program, and that was going to have to be enough for me. I knew that, and so I continued to work on stuff and continued to grow. And my children continue to go to meetings with me. I jumped in service. I jumped in service kind of feet first. I've always loved to do H&I. It's one of my favorite things. One of the women who brought me an NA meeting into the jail that I sat at the first time I got in trouble is still clean and in the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous. And I've told her several times how she saved my life at that point. You know, she shared to me that on Friday night she was in a meeting because normally she'd be out using, and so meetings help her stay clean. And that was true. You know what I mean? Like, she wasn't lying about that shit. Like, she really did what she said she was going to do, man. And that's fucking cool because there weren't a lot of people out there that did that in my life, you know? So anyways, I continued to work the steps and I continued to grow, and my children continued to grow. And I had the opportunity to get to be with them and raise them. Because the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous taught me how to change my life and taught me how to be a better woman and a better mother. They taught me how to open my heart to joy without using. So for me, like I said, the steps have been earth shattering, and they have really awakened my heart and my even my body and my life to spiritual experiences like the birds chirping that I hated when I was high, like the opportunity to hear my children laugh and from joy and play with each other and just be in my presence without me like screaming because they were being too loud, or without me being hungover, or without me, you know, my body crawling out of my skin because didn't have anything to get loaded on, you know? And so those are the things that, those heartwarming feelings, you know, obviously that I don't feel every day. I'm not going to lie. But even getting the small opportunities to have those feelings was a huge awakening for me. And for me, I've been able to stay around this time for 4 years. Next year, it will be the longest amount of clean time I've ever had. I do have my children in my home with me. In my home, oh yeah, Narcotics Anonymous taught me how to buy a house all by myself. I'm a self-supporting woman who has an amazing job that a dream job, um, who bought a home and who gets to have her children in her life. Um, and I did that because the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous taught me how to practice those spiritual principles of honesty, of paying my bills. I don't even know what you would call that, self-supporting, I guess. The rooms of Narcotics Anonymous taught me how to practice that patience with myself and with my children. The rooms of Narcotics Anonymous offered me hope. And I don't know about you guys, but like, I am any addict. I earned my fucking seat in the rooms, with all of with everything about me. You know what I mean? Like, I gave up my children. I gave up my self-worth. I gave up my dignity. I gave up my relationships with healthy people. I did that shit because I needed to get loaded just one more time. And I don't have to do that shit anymore. You know what I mean? Like, the joy I have in my heart from getting to love people, not just myself, not just my children, but the women in Narcotics Anonymous who saved my fucking life. You know what I mean? That joy that I knew I didn't deserve for so long carried me through this program. I did have the opportunity to work most of the traditions over the last couple of years and apply them to my life, man. And this program it has opened up so many internal doors that I had slammed shut and locked, where there are amazing opportunities on the other side. Not like money opportunities, but like heartfelt, emotional, spiritual opportunities to grow. And for me, man, that is an amazing fucking thing. The rooms still feel like home. It doesn't really matter what room I'm in. It doesn't really matter if I know any of the addicts in there. I still walk in and I'm like, yeah, man, these are my people. You know what I mean? I know for me, I've shared this 2 or 3 times already, I am absolutely powerless over my disease. I know it every single time that I eat sugar. I know it every single time that I see somebody using on TV and it gets me going. I know every single time that I see that addict on the street that I just wish they were clean, man. But I'm also craving that use, I'm craving being that wrecked. And I know right there that I still have a lot of work to do, but I'm right where I need to be, I don't know if I've talked too long, but, the truth is that there's hope. There's hope for a junkie like me. And so there's hope for you, there's hope for every single one of us if we want it to be. And I know, like I said, the seat I earn in the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous is mine. Nobody's going to fucking take it away from me ever, except me if I fuck up. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not going to lie there. There's always a yet, maybe, and I know that if it wasn't for the program in Narcotics Anonymous, I wouldn't be able to feel anything today. You know what I mean? Like, I was so empty for so long, even without being loaded, that I didn't know that these feelings existed, man. And for the longest time, I didn't know that there were people out there who didn't want to use. And so I'm grateful for that opportunity too. I could keep going on and on about how Narcotics Anonymous saved my life. And Jody G was an instrumental piece of that. And there are some other women, like there's another woman, Jennifer S., who's going to speak later. She continues to save my life, and continues to teach me how to be the woman that I want to be. And I know that had I not been introduced to this program, and you guys didn't make me feel so welcomed and so secure, that I wouldn't have these opportunities, Yeah, man. I don't know what else to say. Um, I can tell you that, like I said, I have a fuck ton of hope today, and that I'm not leaving anytime soon. With that, I'll pass.